Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females. My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
And today, Alison is going to be talking about Lieutenant Uhura.
Yay!
Let's get into it. Okay.
Lieutenant Uhura is like one of the original badasses, as many would probably consider. She is a woman who is actually a part of the crew on the Starship Enterprise in the original series. She is played by Nichelle Nichols, the wonderful, amazing Nichelle Nichols. And she was also portrayed by Zoe Saldana in the 2009 remake. I'm going to be talking strictly about the original series and about the movies that followed that up, because there's a lot to talk about her already, and I don't need to add the new ones on top of that as well. We are going to start by just talking about the actual TV episodes. And then I'll do some fun facts near the end, and then we can talk about the movies and everything too. For those who don't know, Nichelle Nichols is a black woman as well. And so not only was she a woman on a crew with a bunch of other men, she was also a black woman, and she was a equal role. And so she was one of their equals, and she was awesome and inspired so many others with just simply being there. And it's super cool that Gene Roddenberry pushed for having a lot of diversity, including ethnically and gender-wise. So super awesome. So Uhura is a lieutenant with Starfleet. She has been portrayed manning multiple stations throughout the show, including the Helm and the Science Station. But her main station is the communications one. So that's kind of something that people are wishing was a little bit better, but it's baby steps. This was back in the 60s. And so she was the communications officer. So kind of just like a better telecommunications operator that was a common job for women in the 60s.
Oh.
So it was just in space.
But you have to be smart to do it if you consider how vast space is. Mm-hmm. And probably all the channels that you'd have to connect to, alien life and their technology. Yeah, maybe it's not great. She could have had something better, but still, that is not something I don't think everyone could do. It's not like she just got picked from the street and be like, you're going to be our communications officer.
Yes. And as far as TV shows and stuff are concerned, the character of Uhura did pave the way for so many other characters, not just in Star Trek, but in everything. Mm-hmm. So we've had female security officers and captains and first mates and a bunch of stuff. So many female characters to choose from. We're going to be touching back on Star Trek a whole lot.
Can't wait, because I don't know the series that well. I know of Star Trek. I know that there's the red shirts. It's yes. Always bad to be a red shirt.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, I know about some of the tropes that some people had with certain characters and the romances, but I don't know it like you do, so it will be great to maybe learn more when you talk about more different characters.
Yeah, and Star Trek is just such a utopian future in my mind. There's no money. Everything is about progress, and it's about learning things and meeting new races and expanding our minds as a entire race of people from the planet Earth. And so everybody kind of just does their job and they all work together, and Roddenberry very much wanted the conflict in the episodes to be based on outside conflict and not have it really be internal amongst the crew, because he thinks that was kind of just lazy writing. Because in this future, he believes that truly everybody would just kind of get along. There's some slight issues and some butting of heads, but he did want everybody to get along, and they all focus on making the planet and the universe a better place. So Uhura is one of the supporting characters throughout the show. It really does follow Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Those are the main characters.
Oh, Kirk and Spock.
Yes. the original the original fanfic couple.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yes. So the show follows them, and then we have a large background of a bunch of other fun characters that we kind of gradually get to know throughout the original series. And then into the movies, they kind of realize that what people love about Star Trek is the way that these characters interact with one another, and so they try and do that a little bit more in the movies, and they do get their moments to shine throughout the original series, throughout the TV series as well. There was an animated series for a while too, which I don't know if you ever remembered seeing it on TV, but I definitely remember a couple episodes.
No, I don't remember seeing.
And it's very silly. Very like, think original Spider-Man cartoon levels.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so not...
Aren't there a lot of spin-offs of Star Trek too?
So many.
Like, isn't there one that... Can't remember his name. He plays Buzz Lightyear.
Tim Allen?
I think Tim Allen.
Oh, that's Galaxy Quest.
Yes! Isn't that similar to, like, they all had roles? And...
So, Galaxy Quest is ranked among the best Star Trek movies. Because it is a spoof of Star Trek, like a direct spoof. So it's a good movie on its own, but if you have seen Star Trek and you watch it, it's like extra good.
Oh, okay.
But it is considered one of the top Star Trek movies.
I remember watching Galaxy Quest, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the only spoof I think I know is a spoof.
Yes, yeah, because Alan Rickman plays the Spock character.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And yeah, Tim Allen is therefore playing the William Shatner character, and they do a really good job at kind of like poking fun. And Sigourney Weaver essentially plays the Lieutenant Uhura part, and a lot of times she repeats exactly what the computer says.
Really?
And that's the running joke, because that is what happens a lot in the original series, is the computer will say something and Lieutenant Uhura will turn around and say the same thing.
Oh.
It's not quite as hammed up in the TV show, like you don't really notice it as much unless you're looking for it.
But it's hammed up in Galaxy Quest.
It is hammed up in Galaxy Quest, so that's such a good movie.
Side note, everyone should watch Galaxy Quest if you haven't.
Yeah. Side note, we're going to give you a lot of stuff to watch in this podcast.
Back to Lieutenant Uhura, though.
Yes, back to Uhura. So throughout the 5-year mission is what it was called. So they were really hoping to try and get this show to have like quite a few years. It ended up only having 3 seasons.
Okay.
Which was still like a decent amount.
I was going to say, it's really good for the 60s.
Yeah. A couple things about her. I'm just going to kind of go through some of the standout times, which some are bad, some are better. She is a wonderful singer and can be seen a couple times being accompanied by Spock while he's playing this fancy
alien instrument?
Vulcan instrument.
Oh.
Yes, because Spock is
a
very, very logic-based character, and I think early on they were kind of hinting at them sort of having a relationship, which is why in the new movies they went with that, but nothing ever was really definitive in the show.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So as innovative as the show is, it starts off a little bit problematic, which, you know, again, it's a product of the times, but these are the small steps that we had to take to get where we are now. And even now, I'm sure in 20 years we're going to be considering the things that we were doing now as small steps at the time as well.
Yeah.
So like one of the first things that happens is while she's singing, this alien character that they rescued somehow takes offense during her song, and he kind of just like steals her voice.
Like actually
so
takes
like
it?
actually like takes it. He has like weird telekinetic powers, and he just like takes away her voice. Which the episode is called Charlie X, and there's a lot of weird like toxic masculinity issues in this episode, which I think were actually being pointed out as being wrong, because he's very like, he basically tries to like sexually assault one of the other female crew members, and lots of bad stuff happens, and it's very much shown in a light that it's like, this is bad. We do not like this.
I already got a red flag of you being like, yeah, he takes a woman's voice away, and not just any woman's voice, a black woman's voice.
Yes.
And I am very white, let me tell you. But I do know that is a massive issue even today for so many black women to just have their voice not get heard.
He just literally takes it away.
Oh, no.
Yeah, very much. A lot of Star Trek is a metaphor for what's going on in the real world. So there's lots of things like racism and things like that are blown out of proportion and told in a way that you understand if you look into it what it is that they're trying to get across. Like, it's kind of obvious what they're doing. But if somebody wanted to be closed-minded and wanted to just watch this fun show about space
and pretend issues aren't there,
and close their eyes and pretend like nothing's happening that's bad in the world, they can. But when you really look at it, it is truly a incredible show that looks at the future and does it in like diplomacy, which a lot of people don't really like that part of Star Trek, but my favorite part of Star Trek is the diplomacy. I very much like my Star Trek characters to converse with the evil entities that are destroying stuff and like try and work it out in a way that's mutually beneficial for both sides. Yeah. I enjoy that part of it, and I think that it's something that we as a world need to do a little bit more often, which is see things from both sides, which Star Trek does a lot, and it's awesome. During another episode, which actually has one of my favorite Uhura quotes in it, it's called The Naked Time, and it is an episode where a strange illness begins to affect the crew and make them act crazy. One of the people that acts crazy is Sulu. So Sulu is played by George Takei. And he gets this weird virus, and so he starts acting like some like swashbuckling like pirate guy who like takes off his shirt and like runs around with like a fake sword or something at one point. I'm pretty sure it might be real. I'm pretty sure he has a real sword that he's running around with without his shirt on, and he's all like, "Have at thee." It's very funny.
Have at thee.
At one point, he actually takes Uhura hostage while he is running around being a madman. And he says, "I'll protect you, fair maiden." And Uhura says, "Sorry, neither." Like a badass. Just like, I am not a fair maiden, and I do not need you to protect me. You need to back the fuck off. Oh. And actually, that got past the censors, because of course there was lots of censors and stuff at the time, because Nichelle Nichols ad-libbed that and just like popped her in there like an incredible lady.
Oh my god, love it.
Yes. So yeah. Just sorry, neither. Like, excuse me.
No,
having none of that. You can back off, please.
You can take your toxic masculinity out of here.
Yes, of course.
Not that chivalry is toxic, I think, but had toxic implications starting off.
Yes.
With men being like, oh, women can't do these things and men should do it for them. It's like,
I need to protect you. And she's like, no, you don't, actually.
No, you don't. It's like, you could be a nice guy, but you still don't understand where your chivalry is coming from.
She's also led things like searches and stuff like that, and takes command if higher-ranking crewmen are not on board. She does get a bit more character building and screen time in the episode The City on the Edge of Forever, which is probably the quintessential original series episodes. It's a two-parter where Dr. Bones, so Dr. McCoy, goes a little loopy because he accidentally like overdosed himself on something, and he runs into this thing that's like a gateway, and it actually portals them back in time. And so he goes back in time, and then Uhura, Spock, and Kirk are all on the planet trying to figure out what to do, and Uhura figures out that when he went back in time, he actually disrupted the time stream, and now the Enterprise doesn't exist. But because those other crewmen are on the ground near this gate, they are protected from the time disruption. And so Kirk and Spock have to go back in time and fix everything. But in this moment, you find out that this is the time when Uhura really shows that she's afraid. Because so often, like when they show her on the screen and stuff like that, when they're doing anything kind of crazy, she's very all business. She knows what she got into. She's not there for nothing, basically.
Good.
And so, yeah, she admits that she's actually afraid, and she acts as kind of the replacement for yourself in that. So she's kind of stating what it is that the viewer should be feeling at that time, is that it's not just like, oh, like time stream disruption, whoa. It's serious, right? Like, all of Starfleet is gone and they're trapped on this world. Like, it's creepy. But yeah, some amazing acting, and a lot of people make fun of William Shatner's acting, and they kind of, the parodies of it now are kind of parodies of the parody. So it's gotten to a point where it's so far from the original content that it's kind of its own thing now.
Oh, okay.
Because their acting is very Shakespearean. It's very stage. It is... Yeah, it's playing for the back of the room. And you get that in this, but it just... Their emotions are so genuine, and they just do it so well that it's beautiful. I love the acting in the original series, but I also love old movies and stuff like that. So, you know. And a couple other things that she does throughout the show is a lot of times she'll be the one who has to fix the communication system. So she doesn't just know how to operate it. She knows how to fix it. She knows how it works. She can reroute stuff and fix everything and just take part in kind of emergency situations on the bridge. And that is cool. Many times she is also set up to be the voice of reason to the hot-headed Captain Kirk. And she kind of backs up Spock a lot on those things, because Spock is very logical and then Kirk is very emotional. And she's kind of the middle gauge. So she's like, hey, like, you need to chill and you need to care a little bit more, kind of thing. So
I find that so interesting, because in a lot of things, even today, like, I'm sure throughout any period of time, it was like women can't be leaders in power because of their emotions. Like, the whole, like, oh, if she's on her period, don't give her the red button thing, for like those weird White House jokes. So I think it's interesting how you just said that Kirk is emotional
100%.
and Spock is the intellectual one, and she's in the middle because she knows how to control. Like, obviously everyone will get over emotional for things that they care about, and I'm sure she has that in her character, where there might be moments where she doesn't think of a logical thing or how to calm down because something's passionate for her. But the fact that she can tell the captain to be like, calm your tits, and you, other dude who's too calm, maybe get some emotion up in here. I really like that, because I feel like sometimes if it was the opposite, where there was like a female captain, there's always going to be that one male figure or something that like emphasizes that she needs to calm down. So I like how they didn't have her be the emotional one, that two men have to calm down, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And it is revolutionary. The fact that a black woman is telling two white men to cool it and is being listened to. At that time, that was not a thing. Like, black women were maids on television. They were not equals. They were not
always a slave.
Yes. They were always less than. And to have like something so small, and like looking back, we can pretend all we want and be like, well, they should have done better. But what they were doing was so much already. It was bonkers. Like, already so much. Just like I said, having a black woman be like, you need to chill.
I can only imagine how many young, or even just like a mom watching that with her son, probably felt so empowered to see a woman do that. But imagine a black woman seeing that. Like, I can only imagine how emotional they could have felt.
I have so many anecdotes for that later, don't you worry.
Okay, I just keep going.
There's so much. Another problematic episode that is still my favorite, though, because she's just so charming in it. It is the episode called Mirror Mirror, which I bet you can guess is the evil twin one, where Kirk, McCoy, Scott, and Uhura get trapped in a parallel universe.
Oh, I love those parallel universes.
This is the one with like the goatees. Like, this like structured the idea that like, because evil Spock had a goatee, and so that's how you could tell the difference.
Oh, Oh, okay. It was facial hair would notify the bad one.
Yeah, evil facial hair, scars, that kind of
eye
stuff
patches.
is like, yeah, you are clearly
A funky hat, maybe.
yes.
Okay, so this is the one where there's.
So they end up in a universe that is much more violent and unforgiving than their own. This is the episode where Uhura gets to wear a very sexy outfit, even more sexy than her very short red dress.
I was gonna say, when are we talking about her outfit? Because I know that's a conversation and a half.
Yes. So we can probably get into that now, because in this one, not only was she wearing like a really short dress. Here, I'll get you a picture. So this is normal Uhura. It's kind of like a little short dress, but it's actually a pair of like.
Is it like
shorts.
a skirt?
It's like a skirt.
Okay.
But it's like right up there. And now we'll put in Uhura. Mirror.
Oh no.
And
oh no!
she's wearing like a battle skirt with this like gold sash and like a crop top, and her whole belly is showing, but she's got this like killer pair of abs.
I was gonna say, she's got a nice figure.
She's got an incredible body, and this like gold armband, and
I feel like Roman Egyptian vibes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. A lot of Star Trek costumes are very Roman Egyptian. You'll go to a lot of alien planets where everybody's wearing togas. It's just a thing.
Everyone's wearing the togas.
Everyone's wearing the toga. But yeah, like Nichelle Nichols is a gorgeous woman with an amazing figure, like amazing body. It's just like they were like, it's obviously an issue for us because we're like, oh, why do they need to do that? Like all the men are wearing pants and stuff.
Yeah, why do they have to show the bad version being more sexualized?
Yes, yeah. So she's definitely in this very sexy outfit that was like the Slave Leia outfit before the Slave Leia outfit was a thing.
Oh my god.
And in this parallel universe, in order to distract Sulu, who is now the scarred up security officer instead of the pilot like he is in the normal universe, she's like flirting with him, and then she like tells him to go away, and then she flirts with him again, and then she tells him to go away, and he's like getting all like angsty and angry because she's like, I'm gonna flirt with you a bit, now I'm gonna tell you I hate you.
Oh my god, okay.
And it's very funny. And she spurns him a bunch, then flirts with him, and it's all like to distract him while the other three work out a way to get home. So she is doing a vitally important task, but it is very sexualized and stereotypically female, that it's like, go use your body to distract these people. This isn't the last time it happens. And yeah.
Oh no.
But she does it so good that it's just like, God, it's so funny and it's so good.
It's like, you're the quote unquote communications officer. Go communicate with them. And you're like, middle finger to the sky.
Yes. Yeah, so again, vital part of that escape, but could have been handled better and is now handled better.
Like you said, like so many people rip on things where it's like, they should have done better, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, we would have liked if they could have done better. Mm-hmm. But realistically, we don't know what it truly was like for someone to be in a creative position to push as hard as they could push.
Yeah, and he already got a black woman and a Asian man as two like credited main cast members, essentially. Having
today, that's like, hard enough.
Yeah, they already did a lot, and in the pilot episode, actually, the first mate, so the number one is what it's called, was actually a woman who was Majel. She's like the voice of every robot in Star Trek.
Really?
And she's amazing, and I love her so much. And she was actually number one in the pilot episode, but they changed that because, I don't know, they decided to make it an alien instead.
I guess if they're going for representation, they should have an alien. Like, I get that. Not everyone should be from Earth.
Yeah. So they went with an alien man instead, and thus we get Spock. But either who. Another character who they actually brought back in Discovery is a character called, Harcourt Mudd, and he is like, if you imagine like a swashbuckling pirate who's useless, but also like he's really smart, but he's just like a tool. Like he is the biggest disaster of a human being. Like he's like running away from his wife because he like lied to their family about having money and stuff, and like now he's like on this planet with a bunch of like female androids that he's designed to be like super sexy, which yeah, most of the female costumes in Star Trek are really problematic.
Just like,
there's only so much I can say about it.
Yeah. Like, this is supposed to be a positive podcast. We can only say so much about negative things.
Yeah, it is what it is. It happened. That's it. We're gonna move on. Either way,
we'll make a spin-off podcast where we just complain about all the bad shit.
Just yell about how mad we are. Nobody will listen.
No one will listen. We'll get spam mail telling us to shut up.
Yeah. So yeah, he's on this planet with a bunch of female androids that want to escape the planet by stealing the Enterprise. In this episode, you get a lot of kind of cool character building for Uhura, where you find out that one of her biggest fears is actually growing old. And I think that that's a really interesting insight into what it is that women were, or what it is that people wanted women to care about in that time, was growing old, it was aging, it was getting wrinkles, it was things like that. And to this day, we as women still face those expectations that you have to stay the same all the time. And so having that be her greatest fear, these robots offered her to build her a body, which can be looked at as a little strange too, because of course all the female robots were white. So not only were they offering her agelessness, they were also offering her this idea of like racial acceptance and all of these things. This might not necessarily have been intentional. This is how a lot of people see it now online. They look back at this episode and they're like, yeah, like they are offering her the quote unquote perfect body.
Yeah,
that
which is a white woman.
It is a white woman that doesn't age. So lots of issues there, but she does turn them down because she believes in her crew and she knows that that is like incorrect. And yeah, like it's just, you get some incredible scenes with her in this where she's really struggling with that idea that it's like, yeah, like the offering of immortality, but losing herself in the process as well. Because
and what she worked towards.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, like, your body is so much a part of who you are as well. Like, your expression is so important, and I can't imagine that, like, even a black woman in a utopian future where racism doesn't exist anymore, at least not among the humans.
There's probably still racism.
There is racism towards aliens and stuff, but where racism doesn't exist anymore among the humans, I still imagine that the idea of her giving up not only the rest of her body but her skin color would have probably been a lot of things
like
too.
Imagine her waking up every day and seeing her body that the robots made her, and like she probably wouldn't recognize herself. Yeah, so incredible episode. It's called I Mud. Also has some funny stuff in it. This is the episode with the best gif in the whole entire world, which is it the one where she bends down, lifts up, and slaps a man?
100%.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna ask you about that. I was gonna bring that up later. Okay, continue.
It's the curtsy slap, and it is it is amazing.
I have it saved in my gif folder.
Yes, it's every woman's favorite gif from Star Trek. The amazing curtsy slap, and it is truly wonderful. In the infamous episode that everybody loves to make fun of called The Trouble with Tribbles, she is actually the one who brings on board the very first Tribble. The little fuzzy balls, which are adorable and make cute little sounds, and I want one so bad. But as soon as you have two of them, they start reproducing like crazy, and so it starts like filling up the ship. And then hilarity ensues, and these little fuzzy, cute monsters are all over the ship. And I think this is the episode where they, like, offload them for, like, Klingons or something. So then the Klingons end up with them. I might be confusing this with TNG, but either way. There usually is, like, a internal look at us as a society episode, and then there's like a silly episode.
Yeah,
and it balances nice.
Balance the view.
Yes.
Because if you watch something emotional for a few too many episodes in a row, you kind of just break down, and you're like, I need a break. I need an emotional break. So it's
you
good
need
that
an emotional break. Lots of fun. And now we're going to talk about probably the most memorable thing that happened in the original series, which happens in the episode called Plato's Stepchildren.
Plato's Stepchildren.
Plato's Stepchildren. Like
Plato's.
yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. I heard like Play-Doh was in like children's toy that you shouldn't eat.
Play-Doh.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so the crew is trapped on a planet full of telekinetic aliens who say they follow the teachings of Plato. So that's kind of their whole planet philosophy.
Oh.
So their powers are so mental that they've lost like physicality. So they're like telekinetic, so they're weaker, they're much more susceptible to things like diseases and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Because they're like, their brain power kind of came at a cost. When one of their leaders gets hurt, the Enterprise comes and McCoy saves him. Mm-hmm. And so now they're like, well, just give us your doctor and you can go home. And Kirk's like, hell no, I'm not leaving my friend here forever with you. And so they use their powers to humiliate the crew to try and force them to do things against their will. And this is the episode with the kiss, which is problematic but also important.
Okay.
Because the kiss is not technically consensual because it's a couple telekinetic aliens forcing them to kiss against their will.
Okay.
And she actually like says she's scared like while they're like being forced to kiss and they're trying not to. And so it's
oh no, so she's flat out saying she doesn't want this. Yes. Oh, okay.
It's very
oh no.
The scene is so important for so many different reasons because it is showing the idea of consent in a time when that was still like
hardly talked
about. And in this scene actually Majel, who does the voices, is also actually McCoy's nurse as well, who is another amazing female character. She's badass and is awesome. But she has always had a crush on Spock in the show, and so her and Spock are being forced to kiss. And she's like, I wanted this for so long, and this isn't how I wanted it. And it's just like, oh, God. It's such a good episode. And it's like, it makes you feel uncomfortable, which I think was kind of the intention too. But you never really can tell because, of course, this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's like 60 years ago now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those issues, but they knew the importance of having that kiss on television. Both Shatner and Nichols decided that they needed this to be aired everywhere because a lot of times around the States, depending on the state that you're in, they'll actually cut television differently to cut out things that they don't want. Oh. And so in order to make it so that there was no way for them to cut out this kiss between a black woman and a white man, they fucked up every other take. Intentionally sabotaging every other take of this scene.
Really?
Yes. So they had to take this, they had to use the scene where they actually kissed. Otherwise, like, you couldn't air it. And so like with the limited amount of money and stuff like that, it's like they basically forced it, and it is a milestone in television history. It's huge, obviously has its problems, but it is such like a vital point that it's like, we want everybody to see this. Everybody has to know that this is okay and it's normal couples, and all that stuff. So
it sucks that it was through
it's
not consensual means.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty good at like looking at a piece of media and considering it for what it was at the time. There are only so many things that you can do, and you can't really like go back and change that kind of stuff. And there's no way that you can deny that this kiss is vitally important to media everywhere. Like
even to people who are currently like, imagine if that didn't happen. I wonder how much more of a struggle we could have had for people who were in love to try to get their love be viewed as okay. Mm-hmm. If they didn't see two famous people on TV be like, yo, this is okay.
Yeah, and speak out that it was important.
Yeah.
Like, seeing that was important. And so it's problematic fave. Yeah, so that's basically all of like her highlights in the original series. It's good. It's better than what a lot of people kind of joke about the acting and all that stuff being bad. But there's some TV shows now that can't even touch the original series. Like, the emotion and the care that they have put into this show is absolutely amazing and awesome. So now I'm going to quickly rattle through the movies because she doesn't... There's one movie that I want to talk about more than all the other ones.
Okay.
Because she does a lot in it.
Okay.
So there's 6 movies after all of this. The one is Star Trek The Motion Picture, which I believe came out around the same time that Star Wars did, and it didn't do very good. Or it came out after it, or something. Either way, it was very long, very unnecessarily long. Lots of added sci-fi special effects stuff that was not really necessary. The gang gets back together, and they go out to find more information on an unknown object approaching Earth. It's called V'ger, and in this film, Uhura does take a bit of a backseat to the main 3, as per the show a lot. As kind of a rule of thumb, people are like, well, like, as far as the Star Trek movies go, every other one is better. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's kind of like the bad 3, which is 1, 3, and 5, and then there's like the good 3, which is like 2, 4, and 6.
Okay.
And then there's Galaxy Quest, which is...
Oh, I really like that one.
So now on to Star Trek 2. This is Wrath of Khan. Honor Khan! Yeah.
And this is like OG. This isn't the one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
No. You do meet Khan in the TV show, the original series. You find out what happens. He's basically like some superhuman, genetically superior being.
Okay.
Back when they were like working on eugenics and stuff, which is kind of how we got to the Star Trek world, is due to the eugenics war. Which, you know, I like to pretend that we can just get to Star Trek without having to go through a massive worldwide war, but that's not a thing. We got Star Trek because the world burned down, essentially. So he's from the eugenics kind of program, and him and a bunch of other people got sent to this planet because they were all these like crazy superhumans. The planet died, and now Khan is pissed because he survived, and a couple of the other ones survived, but his wife died. And so he's very, very mad at Kirk. So they actually hijack another Federation ship, and it starts like attacking the Enterprise, and you get to see Uhura being a super cool badass as she just like keeps doing her stuff, and like the engine room is on fire, and she's just like, I gotta do my shit, and it's cool. Uhura basically gets to, like, again, she does a lot of her job. She interacts with everybody. She's on board. She helps Spock and the others make repairs to the Enterprise, so she gets all that cool stuff where she proves that she's a valuable member of the crew. In this movie's final act, Spock actually dies. Spoiler. A little late for that. Spock dies.
Just spoiler. Wait, oops, that should have came from...
This movie is so old. I don't care.
That's okay. It's like spoiling the Titanic. But you can't freaking spoil the Titanic anymore.
Spock dies. And this is where you get like a few of the truly touching scenes, and the whole crew is mourning his loss, including Uhura. It's sad, and then they eject the pod of Spock's body out of the ship. The coffin actually lands on this planet that was created in the final fight, because what they were all after was this thing called a Genesis device, which was a device that would basically break down the matter of a dead planet and rebuild it, so it would terraform the planet, and now there's life. And so they blew up this device in like a nebula, and since there was no planet there, it kind of created one, and so now Spock's coffin is on
that created planet.
This fancy new planet. And then there's episode 3 called The Search for Spock. Again, one of the ones that's not really considered super great. I love it. I love all the movies, actually. I think they're all fun. My favorite one's coming up, though.
Okay.
So we pick up basically exactly where we left off. Everybody's mourning Spock. Uhura's there amongst them all. They're all sad. They find out that Spock actually transferred his katra, so his soul, to McCoy before he died. And then that would be preserved by another host. And that's kind of a part of the whole Vulcan burial thing, is that their body would be brought back to Vulcan, and then so would their katra being carried by a host, so that then the katra could join their afterlife or whatever, and then the body could be... Either way, they shot the body out, and so now they have to go rescue his body, because Spock's dad was like, yo,
you fucked up.
yo, can you please go get my son's body so we can properly bury him? Although traveling to the planet is forbidden, and so the whole crew decides to help in a mission that they're not supposed to. They're all just like, fuck the rules.
Fuck the rules.
Let's go get Spock. And they do. They go and they rescue his body. A bunch of crazy stuff happens. Spock's body gets reborn because of all the magic Genesis powers.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but he doesn't have a soul in him, so he's kind of this like weird little feral, speedy, quick growing, half human, half Vulcan, and things go down. Yeah, in order to get a ship to go and rescue him, Uhura actually takes a position as a transporter officer where she can beam everyone aboard the now fixed Enterprise, and she meets up with them at the planet Vulcan later. So she like basically goes and gets a job and is just like, you know, I'm gonna go be a communications officer over here just so that I can break all of the rules and save your guys' asses. So they end up going and saving him, and then she meets him on Vulcan. Spock is rejoined with his Katra, and everybody is happy. Next is the voyage home, which I'm actually weirdly going to skip the voyage home.
Okay.
Because that's the one I want to talk about more. Star Trek V is the final frontier. Basically, lots of diplomacy in this one. This one has a lot to do with, a lot, Klingons, Romulans, like, bunch of cool shit. They're all taken hostage by a rogue Vulcan. Uhura basically gets the job of, like, collecting everybody from their respective, like, vacations. And this is where you first see that they're trying to kind of set up a thing with, like, Uhura and Scotty. And so this is where you see them, and then she kind of flies around and she collects all of them. Zulu and Chekhov, which is the Russian one, are off in the woods hiking, and they're actually lost. And so Uhura's like, hey, like, I'm here to pick you guys up. And they're like, oh, it's so blizzardy, we don't know where we are. And of course, she being on the ship can see the, like, weather patterns and stuff. And she's like, it's okay, I won't tell anybody. So she's preserving their fragile masculinity and is like, it's fine, you guys got lost on a perfectly sunny day in a forest.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine, you're okay. She collects Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, who are all out camping. She gives Kirk a bunch of sass because he definitely didn't bring his communicator. So she actually has to fly the shuttle down to pick them up because she can't locate their places to do the transport. And so she's like, yeah, like, you left your communicator. He's like, why didn't you call? And she's like, I couldn't. Like,
I literally couldn't.
Like, I could not. And you made it so that I could not. Uhura gets to join the landing team, and a bunch of stuff happens. She ends up kind of getting taken in by this rogue Vulcan who's kind of freeing their minds using some weird hypnosis stuff. One more problematic scene that we need to talk about. When Kirk puts a landing party together to go and rescue the hostages that this Vulcan took, Uhura's on the team. And they, unfortunately, are forced to land pretty far away from where the hostages are being held. And in order to get to the location faster, they have to steal some horses from some wranglers. And in order to do that, Uhura has to do a sexy dance.
What? Why?
Yeah, don't know where that logic came from, but Uhura has to do a sexy dance. And I actually queued up the sexy dance for you.
Oh, no.
It's also kind of implied that she's not really wearing anything except for feathered fans. So, this has, like, also been parodied a lot. I think it's done on, like, Futurama. It's probably a bunch of other places, but, like, the sexy fan dance is very much a thing in, like, pop culture. And it was done by her. But at the end there, which you couldn't actually hear because volume issues, but at the end, while they're, like, crawling up the dunes to, like, come and see her, a bunch of the guys pop out, like a bunch of her actual landing party pop out with guns and point it at all the raiders. And what she says is, like, I've always wanted to perform for a captive audience. Which is awesome. Because they're captives now.
Punny, I like it. I like that.
So, problems? Yes. Still cool? Yes. Yes.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, wouldn't have been as much of an issue if she had done more in the rest of the movie, but
that's kind of like all she really did.
Yeah.
Shit ain't perfect.
Nope. Either way. Eventually they're all saved. Hooray. Go Kirk.
Yay.
I don't know. Lots of fun though. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. This one, some crazy shit goes down with the Klingons, lots of space battles, lots of cool stuff, lots of diplomacy. It's like the perfect mix of everything that I love. Kirk and McCoy, they have to take on like a Klingon ambassadors because they're going to try and make peace with the Klingon Empire. And so Uhura does a lot of like tracking and finding out where people are and things like that.
Doesn't sound like she has much going in the movies.
Not really, except for the movie that I'm going to talk about in a minute here.
Okay.
But again, like so much of those parts in the movies are very much her just like being a part of the crew.
Yeah.
Which I think is also like incredibly important for the time. Just simply having a black woman be equal, be a part of the team is
a lot.
Huge, is a lot. Of course, just telling you about the highlights of her are not even coming close to what it is to watch it and see her playing these things and doing this stuff and putting all of her, like, having Nichelle Nichols put all of her attitude and personality into this character who is just so adorable and fabulous. Yeah, so basically they all just kind of save Kirk and McCoy, who get framed for killing an ambassador. Stuff goes down, fun stuff, lots of assassins and intrigue, a war planet, that's fun. And then at the end everybody's on the ship and they're like, okay, well, it's time for the Enterprise to get decommissioned and for all of the people aboard to retire essentially. Everybody's like, no. And so they decide to run away with the Enterprise. And this is when Kirk says like second star to the left and straight on till morning, or is it the right? The Peter Pan quote, because they're going to go find Neverland kind of thing, which is adorable. And they all kind of stand there and smile and they're like, yay, we did it. Now back to the best movie, which a lot of people are probably going to have an issue with, but I don't care. My favorite.
It is your favorite, and that's all that matters.
It's The Voyage Home. It is the fourth movie.
Okay.
And this is the movie where they go back in time to save the whales.
Wait, what? Like actual like Earth whales?
To save whales.
Why? What's important about them saving whales?
So after the events of Search for Spock, so the one where Spock comes back to life, they now have a commandeered Klingon vessel that they've named the Bounty. So this movie doesn't actually have the Enterprise in it very much. So they steal the Bounty and they're like headed back to Earth, but a mysterious probe has come to Earth and begun sucking water and moisture from the oceans. It has neutralized everything it has come into contact with so far, and no one knows what it wants. So like every machine, like space station, all that stuff, all just like shuts down. It drains the power. While heading back to Earth, Uhura picks up like how all the communication channels are completely flooded with distress signals. Everything's going crazy. Like people are panicking, and she kind of weeds out what is actually happening, and she finds a signal that is a transmission warning ships to not approach Earth because they'll break too. And Kirk asks to hear the probe's signal in hopes of discovering what it is that the probe wants. Spock deduces that the probe is looking for a response from a humpback whale and is not actually intentionally hostile. Like, it's not meaning to destroy all these things. It's just looking for whales, basically. Humpback whales are extinct. They are all gone in this year of planet Earth because humans killed them.
What the fuck?
So they discover a way to slingshot themselves back in time by flying really fast and using the gravitational pull of the sun to get them to fly faster. They go back in time.
Okay.
All this while flying an unfamiliar Klingon ship. So everything is like awesome.
Okay. What year do they go back to?
They go back to the 21st century. So they go back to like the 70s, I think.
That's when the whales.
Well, because that's when the whales are still alive. So they have to go back and get a whale.
Oh, they're just getting one whale.
They need to save some whales and bring them back to the future.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like a period of time when like humans fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, sometime between the 21st and the 23rd century, we killed all the whales.
Oh my god. Okay.
So they make it back into the 21st century. And the crew splits into 3 teams. Kirk and Spock are going to go out and try and find the whales. And McCoy and Sulu and Scott are in charge of building a tank within the ship in order to hold a couple whales. And Uhura and Chekhov get to go and collect photons from a naval vessel in order to recharge the dilithium crystals so they can get home. So a black woman and a Russian man are going to go break into a naval base in, like, I think the 70s. I can't remember.
That will not go well. That I know right now, that flat out will not go well. They know that, right? They don't. They don't know that they're going to face a bunch of terrible shit coming their way. Oh my god.
Oh no, 1986. Sorry. Either way, still though.
That's the year my parents were born.
So they travel back in time to 1986. When they made their jump, the crystals on board kind of got drained, and so they don't have any power to get home. So we're not going to talk at all about the other people's shenanigans, which are hilarious, which is why I love this fucking movie. It's just a bunch of people at a time. They all have no idea what's going on. Everybody's rude. Like, and they're like, Spock is wearing like a robe, essentially, because he just got his new body, and so he's wearing like classic Vulcan robes, and he's got these pointy ears. And they're like, I don't think they've ever seen an alien before. And so he just rips off a sheet, like a piece, and wraps it around the top of his ears like a fucking headband. At one point, he's also in the tank, mind-melding with the whale. You need to watch this freaking movie. It's so funny.
I'm already interested.
I watched all of the movies before I watched any of the original series. So, like, throughout the movies, I fell in love with these characters. And I watched the original series, and I enjoyed it all the more. So you don't necessarily have to watch the original series to enjoy the movies, because I enjoyed them so much. The two have trouble getting directions on how to get to the naval base. They do eventually find their way and locate a nuclear vessel, which is where the nuclear vessel quote comes in, because Chekhov is Russian and says Wessel.
Wessel.
Yeah, nuclear vessel. And the ship is actually, oddly enough, named the Enterprise. So that's a little fun add-in that they put. So Uhura is actually getting the exact coordinates of the reactor, while Chekhov is trying to, like, touch base with the other ones. And they're going to transport in at night, so they don't actually technically have to break in. That evening, the two transport aboard and now have to wait for the collector to do its thing while they remain hidden from the guards. They don't remain hidden for very long, because the collection is actually registering as a power drain. An investigation has started, so there's a bunch of officers now searching for them. And once enough is collected, Uhura tries to make contact with the crew, but her signal is weak because of all the radiation around them. Nothing is really working. With the low power, Scott can only beam one of them back at a time. Uhura goes first, because Chekhov insists, because she needs to get back with photons. Chekhov's transport fails, and he's now stuck on a ship and captured. And then he tries to escape, and he's injured, and he's taken to the hospital. In the 21st century, which is horrifying to somebody from
the future.
No. So Uhura gets back and is, like, frantically trying to find a signal for Chekhov. She's, like, blaming herself, and Kirk actually like tells her, he's like, yeah, like, that you could only do this thing, like, you have to make these kinds of sacrifices, that kind of stuff. I have to talk about this because it's funny. They eventually find him in a hospital where Kirk, Dr. Taylor, a woman in STEM, who is actually a whale scientist. That's how they kind of find the whales and get to know them. She actually ends up coming back to the future with them because she loves the whales so much. And she's like, do you have anybody in the future who understands whales? And Kirk is like, well, no. And she's like, so what are you going to do with them once you get them there? And he's like, good point. And so she comes back to the future, and it's awesome.
I love that. I love
Kirk,
that so much.
This doctor, and then McCoy are all, like, running to the hospital to try and save them, and they're, like, in the hospital, and McCoy's freaking out. He's like, it's barbaric. What are they doing to these people? And he runs into this old lady who, like, needs dialysis. He's like, dialysis? And he, like, gives her a pill, and she grows a new kidney. And she's like, that man gave me a new kidney.
And he's like, no, you do not need this barbaric. Take this pill, woman. I probably would have thought he was Jesus. I'm not gonna lie. If some man gave me a goddamn pill and I grew a new kidney, I would think that person is, like, A gifted mythological figure. Freaking, are you Zeus? Are you Hephaestus? Are you a friggin' Egypt? I don't know, but that's what I would have thought if I was that old.
It's such a funny movie that's just so, like, sweet, and really, like, splitting them up into the teams. Just, like, you get so many moments with each team and each character, and it's just, it's so fucking funny. It's so good.
So do they get the whales back?
Yes, they do get the whales back. Now, altogether again, the crew must find the whales that have been released into the ocean. Uhura tracks them and eventually locates them, and they arrive just in time to scare the crap out of a whaling ship that's about to shoot the whales. And then they transport up a pregnant whale and then another one. I think there's 2 whales that they bring back, and one is pregnant. They make a very sketchy return to the 23rd century. The Bounty crash lands in the San Francisco Bay, where they blow the hatch and release the whales, and everyone else gets out. They all escape the sinking ship. The whales almost immediately begin responding to the probe, and it leaves while power returns to Earth and the weather normalizes. The crew celebrates by splashing around and playing in the bay, like they jump in. Spock doesn't want to jump in, and so Kirk climbs up behind him and pushes him off, and it's very, like, old sitcom-y ending, where it's kind of like freeze frame kind of deal. They're all having a great time and it's adorable, but they still have to face court-martial because of all the things that they did wrong in the last one. Currently, I don't know if I said this or not, currently Kirk is an admiral, so he's not actually a captain anymore.
He got demoted?
No, admiral is higher.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So admiral is higher, so he got promoted.
I don't know my army
it's okay.
captain terms.
Yeah, they get court-martialed, and it turns out that they just demote Kirk to being a captain.
Okay.
So it's like a we're punishing you, but they know that that's what he wants, because they did save the world.
Yeah.
So, yay, they saved the whales. That's my favorite movie of the Star Treks.
I'm just trying to, like, I'm still on the old kidney thing. I'm so sorry.
It's very funny.
Damn, did she ever talk about, or were there any interviews of her talking about important moments for her in the career as this character?
Yes. So some other fun facts that I have on here. So Uhura, the character, specializes in linguistics, cryptography, and philology, which I believe is the study of, like, language or whatever. She is one of the first black characters to be portrayed in a meaningful role, is how they called it. The name Uhura is inspired by the Swahili word for freedom, which is Uhuru, and Nyota, her first name, means star. Super pretty. Roddenberry sought diversity in his casting with Nichelle and George Takei. There were also a few other regular women on the crew, including Yeoman Janice Rand and Nurse Chapel, which is the one who's played by Majel Barrett. Majel is the second wife of Gene Roddenberry and voices the onboard computer, as well as playing Loxana Troy in the TNG, so the Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. She's the one who I said was number 1 in the original pilot episode.
Oh.
After the first season, she was actually going to leave the show.
Really?
Yes, until at, like, a meeting or conference or whatever, somebody was like, hey, like, a big fan wants to meet you. So she's, like, expecting, like, a kid or something, right? And she turns around and it's Martin Luther King Jr. And he is the one who actually convinces her that what she was doing was important. He says that Star Trek was one of the only shows that he and his wife would allow their children to watch. And he quoted, "You don't have a black role, you have an equal role." She felt like she wasn't being utilized. She's like, yeah, like, I'm not doing anything. And then she didn't realize how much she was doing until that moment. And
then she stayed.
Mm-hmm. And then then she stayed because, like, yeah, I mean, come on. Martin Luther King Jr. tells you to do something, you'd probably do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And so she's spoken a lot about how Uhura has inspired so many people, and they've talked to her about it. One of those people is Whoopi Goldberg.
Really?
Yes. So Whoopi Goldberg actually recalls telling her family about seeing a black woman on television that wasn't a maid. So she, like, sees her and she runs around and she's like, Mom, like, oh my gosh, there's a black lady on television. Just, like, imagining, like, a little Whoopi Goldberg, which in my mind, like, I can't imagine Whoopi as a child, and I just imagine her as, like, a smaller version of adult her. Like, running around freaking out. And Whoopi would actually later go on to play Guinan in The Next Generation.
Oh,
which
that's
I
how
read.
she...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So she actually was like super excited because she got to also play on Star Trek. Also a cool character. I think I was reading the other day that Star Trek, they weren't sure if The Next Generation was going to keep going after the first season. And Whoopi Goldberg was like, I want to be on Star Trek. And so they're like, I guess we need to do another season. Like, it was kind of brought into one of the reasons why they brought it back for more seasons was because, like, the biggest star at the time was like, yo.
Yo, let me have at thee.
Yes, and further trickle-down effects equal Leslie Jones. So Leslie Jones was actually inspired by seeing Guinan in Star Trek. And so it's this like awesome trickle down effect of these incredible, funny black women, and it just shows like how much representation does matter. So that's just super cool. So she inspired so many people. She would also actually be employed by NASA to encourage women and African Americans to join up.
What?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so she actually took part in like recruitment and stuff.
For actual space.
For actual space. So many female astronauts have talked about how Uhura is the one that inspired them. How that was the reason why they wanted to go into space.
Oh, I love that so much.
And my last fun fact is that Nichols also got to meet President Obama, who confirmed that he was a Trekkie and had a crush on her when he was younger.
I love that.
I know.
So much.
So cute.
This made me feel good.
I know, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like hearing that Whoopi Goldberg was inspired.
I know. It's so cute.
And Obama. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm just really happy about it. Oh boy.
So that is why I love Uhura. So Fonda, before we end off the show, what are you excited about right now?
Alison, I am so glad you asked. So I've been spending my time because Adam bought a Switch 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
And he bought the new Fire Emblem game. It's called Fire Emblem Three Houses. By the time this airs, it'll probably be old news. But you are basically a teacher, which is like my profession. And you're like going around training like the young minds of the future, because it just so happens that the three leaders of the three houses, one of them is like the next in line to rule the empire, the other person is next in line to rule a kingdom, and the third person is the next in line to be the house leader of an alliance. And you're just like, you get to pick which house you want to be the teacher of, and I picked the Golden Deer, mainly because the color scheme reminded me of Hufflepuff.
Nice.
Have to go there.
Yeah.
Everyone in there kind of reminds me of Hufflepuff people. And the house leader is the best. His name is Claude, and I'll show you a picture of him, but basically, he's just like, he's got some sass, but he cares so much, and he has, like, this cool little hair thing, and I think they missed it by making him be the option to be, because, like, you get to romance people, but you can only romance him as a lady, and I'm like, are you kidding me? The way he is, I think it would have been great if they had him be an opportunity for, like, a male character to date him.
I mean, hard bisexual energy.
Right?
Yeah.
They missed the mark. I'm just saying. But
he has
anyways,
a cape and a popped collar.
Yes, and he has a part braid. And, like, he calls you Teach. And when he talks about things, he's like, you know, one day you and I are just, like, the way he talks, like, it's so, it doesn't matter what gender you are.
Yeah.
How he talks to you just got my heart. And I'm like, I'm going to protect this small child. And so that is what I'm currently really passionate about, is making sure this boy doesn't get killed. Anyways, on that note, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate and subscribe if you haven't already. It really means a lot. And you can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken, and you can find her on Twitter at Werevile. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.